SEO is the process of optimizing various front-end and back-end components of your website so that it ranks in search engines and brings in new traffic. Just creating and publishing your website isn't enough. You need to optimize it for Google in order to rank and attract new traffic. It's called on-page SEO because the tweaks and changes you make to optimize your website can be seen by visitors on your page, whereas off-page and technical SEO elements aren't always visible. Every part of on-page SEO is completely up to you. That's why it's critical that you do it correctly. On-page SEO is important for both search engines and people. It helps search engines understand your website and its content. Google is increasingly focused on relevance in order to better understand what users are actually searching for when they type a query and deliver results that meet user intent. Google's How Search Works report states, the most basic signal that information is relevant is when a web page contains the same keywords as your search query. If those keywords appear on the page, or if they appear in the headings or body of the text, the information is more likely to be relevant. This means you need to be selective with the keywords you use. While it might be tempting to use a lot of keywords on your pages in hopes of matching as many queries as possible, this won't help you rank. You need to think about what would be helpful to people searching and create content to answer their questions. Focus your efforts on optimizing for just one keyword or key phrase per page. In this video, we'll cover the basics of optimizing your content for search engines. This is the foundation for creating search-friendly content. There are many more aspects of on-page SEO to consider as well, which you can learn about in the resources section. For right now, we're going to cover these elements of on-page SEO: heading tags, title tags, and external links. First, what is a page heading tag? This is an HTML element that provides a hierarchical structure to a web page. In the early days of search engines, heading tags were direct ranking factors. Today, headings don't directly impact your SEO. However, they do have indirect benefits. Well-written headings make your page easier to read and navigate. This creates a better experience for the user and helps your SEO. If your page lacks structure and visitors can't find what they need, they'll leave your site and search for their answer somewhere else. This increases your bounce rate, which search engines do pay attention to. Just like most aspects of SEO, always put your users first. Use headings to add structure to your content. Describe what each section is about so that visitors can quickly find what they're looking for. Here are some best practices you should follow for page headings. Your page title should have an H1 tag. Subsequent headings on the page should have an H2 or H3 tag, and so on. And use your primary keyword in your page title. First, you're limited to one H1 heading per page. This should be your page's name. Think of the H1 heading like the name of a book. Some CMS platforms will tag this automatically, but it's a good idea to make sure your page heading is an H1. As you continue down the page, use H2 or H3 headings to break out different sections. Heading tags have levels corresponding to their importance on the page. An H1 is more important than an H2, which is more important than an H3, and so on. Search engine crawlers use these tags to scan through your content, so make sure that your section headings use this format. It's unlikely that you'll need to go any further than an H3, but if you're writing a very long or very technical piece of content with many subcategories, you can use subsequent tags. Here's an example of how heading tags appear on a blog post. The H1 is a quick primer on Google search engine results page, SERP. Next is the H2, what does SERP stand for? Then another H2, SERP features. Then a series of H3s, rich snippets, paid results, universal results, and so on. Finally, make sure you include your target keyword in your page heading. This is less about having your heading exactly match the keyword and more about accurately describing your page's contents. For example, if you're writing a blog post about the top 10 cities to live in North America, a good heading for that post could be the top 10 cities to live in North America. If you're a wedding planner creating your website services page, the heading of that page might be Wedding Planning Services. Next, Let's talk about title tags. A title tag is an HTML element that specifies a web page's title, also known as the SEO title. The title tag and the heading tag are two different things, but they're often written in the same way. Your heading tag is meant for people who are already on your site to tell them what a given page is about. Your title tag, on the other hand, is meant for people who aren't yet on your website. It's what's displayed in the search engine results pages, or SERPs, and its purpose is to entice people to click through onto your website. In most CMSs, the title tag defaults to match the page heading, and often this is fine. If you've written an effective page heading that accurately describes your page's contents, this will usually function just as well in search engines. Let's take a look at an example. This title in SERPs is the same as the page heading, but sometimes it helps to have a different title tag than your heading tag. For instance, if your page heading is very long, it may benefit you to write a shorter version for your title. This is because after a certain number of characters, about 60, your title will get cut off in Google. Let's take a look at this example. This title tag is too long. It gets cut off in search engine results, so searchers can't read the entire thing. Here's a pro tip to avoid this problem. Always preview your title before publishing your page. Moz's title tag preview tool lets you preview how your title will appear in SERPs and whether it might get cut off. Follow these best practices for title tags. Include your primary keyword in your title tag. Keep your title under 60 characters, if possible. And make sure both your page heading and title answer the searcher's primary question. It also helps your on-page SEO to include external links on your pages. These are links to other websites' content. If you link to authoritative websites to support your claims, this can, in turn, help your site's SEO. Just like you might not trust a paper or a news story that didn't cite any sources, when you link to quality external content, it shows your readers and search engines that you've done your research. You should write first and foremost for your readers, and to be informative and trustworthy, you need to link to your sources. There are many tools out on the market to help you optimize your content. These tools offer suggestions to improve your content as you write it. The Yoast SEO plugin for WordPress, the built-in SEO Whiz in Wix, and the Optimizations tab in the HubSpot page and blog editor. The most important part of creating SEO-friendly content is creating user-friendly content. If your content is high quality and seeks to thoroughly and accurately answer the user's search query, you have a much better chance of ranking than if you were to stuff the same keywords into lower quality content.
The most important part of on-page SEO allows search engines to crawl and index your pages. On-page SEO is all about increasing your discoverability in search engines. You can't do this without allowing these search engines to access your pages. This is where crawling, indexing, and ranking comes into play. Let's take a look at how this process works and learn how to enable it on your web pages. Search engines have three primary functions: crawl, or search web pages and look over the code and content for each URL; index, or store and organize the information it finds from crawling; and rank, which allows search engines to provide the pieces of content that best match a person's search query. And how does Google find your content? Basically, Google uses a huge set of computers to crawl billions of pages on the web. This crawler essentially begins with a list of web page URLs generated from previous crawls, and then augments those pages with the sitemap data that's provided. During the crawling process, the Googlebot looks for new sites, updates to existing pages, and any broken links. Once the crawling process is complete, all of the results are fed into Google's index, and any new sites or updated content will be listed accordingly. While it processes the results, Google looks at information on your web page such as title tags, meta description, alt tags, and more. Think of this process like a library. Books need to be identified, categorized, and placed in the right order on shelves. Crawlers are performing similar tasks as a librarian. They are organizing all of the contents on the internet into ways that make them easily accessible. Can your pages already be found by Google? The best place to start is to understand which pages of your website are already being indexed. If your page is being indexed, that means that Google is able to crawl your page and store its contents. The best way to do this is by using an advanced search operator. An advanced search operator sounds complicated, but it's actually pretty simple. In the search engine, type site:yourdomain.com, replacing the domain with your own. So if we're doing this for HubSpot, we type in site:/hubspot.com into Google. We see that HubSpot has 217,000 pages currently being indexed by Google. This isn't going to be an exact number, but it will at least give you an idea of how many of your own pages are currently being indexed. If no content is indexed yet for a site, Google will let you know that your search did not match any results. If no content is found, your next step should be to create a sitemap that you can submit to Google. A sitemap is a file of code that lives on your web server and lists all of the relevant URLs your website is carrying. Your sitemap helps search engine web crawlers understand how your website is built, so that they can evaluate and rank it more easily. XML sitemaps are designed specifically for search engines like Google. Google needs to be able to find web pages anchored within a website, no matter how old or how deeply nested they might be in that website's domain. For this reason, an XML sitemap is a crucial component of a blog where article pages are constantly bumped further and further back in a website's archive. Here's an example of what a sitemap might look like. An XML sitemap includes 4 key elements. The URL location is the full URL to the web page. The last modified date is when the page was last updated. Change frequency can be set to never, yearly, monthly, weekly, daily, hourly, or always. And page priority is a number between 0 and 1, which indicates the level of priority of the pages within your website. To create a sitemap, you'll need to work with multiple teams. Depending on the size of your organization, there may be many people involved in creating a sitemap. If you're a small company, or even a team of 1, keep what I'm about to say in mind too. It will give you context onto what to think about when setting up your own sitemap. Whether you're a business of 1 or 1,000, there are a few perspectives you'll want to keep in mind when setting up your sitemap, including marketing, development, IT, and legal. Let's get started with the marketing team's role in creating your sitemap. Marketing is usually responsible for defining the structure of a site. Which pages need to link to one another? Should site visitors be able to get from the About Us page directly to the product page, for example? Whether they define the structure using a visual sitemap in PowerPoint or some other tools is up to them. Then, you need to consider your developer. A developer will then build an XML sitemap file based on the website structure. Your IT team or agency usually gets involved too, assuming that you're using your own servers or some servers that your IT team controls. The sitemap lives on the server. An IT expert will be able to get it there. And lastly, be sure to check with your legal team. Legal will make sure that the site doesn't have any outstanding copyright restrictions. Then, you'll want to define the navigation structure. The structure of your website plays a big role in your site's SEO, so it's important to plan your top-level navigation strategically. Pay attention to your website's depth. The further away a page is from the original homepage URL of your site, the worse it is for that page's SEO. So what are best practices for top-level navigation? Unfortunately, it's hard to give advice here because they vary significantly between industry and company type. But you can take some inspiration from other successful businesses and apply what works for them for your own site. For inspiration from companies similar to yours, let's take a look at Crayon. Crayon offers competitive intelligence software. It has a huge library of guides and case studies that are easily filterable by industry. This keeps all of the resources close to their top-level homepage, while also allowing pages to be easily navigated throughout their site. Check out high-traffic homepages in your industry to get a sense of their structure and take away some ideas. Once you've defined your homepage's navigation, you'll want to brainstorm and map out the pages that are 2 or 3 levels deeper into your website. This might be your About Us page, your team management page, and your hiring page, for example. Depending on the complexity of your website, you may only need 2 levels. And as you map out the deeper parts of your website, you may find that you need to tweak the top-level navigation. That's okay. Now you're ready to write the XML sitemap and submit it to search engines. Once you've planned out how your website will be organized, you'll create the XML sitemap, put it on your web server, and submit it to each individual search engine. Again, doing these steps depends on your technical ability and the size of your organization. You can either do this work yourself or work with a developer or agency. So why do you need to submit your sitemap? When you first publish your website, and each time you go through a significant site redesign, Someone on your team will have to submit the sitemap to each search engine so that they can tell your homepage from your About Us page. Unless you're using a platform that automatically updates your sitemap, you'll need to update the sitemap yourself and resubmit it anytime you make significant changes. Otherwise, you'll have to wait for search engines to identify, crawl, and index your new pages itself. That means if you've made a really significant change to your structure, you might want to resubmit it yourself. If you're using the HubSpot CMS Hub, you don't have to worry about that. HubSpot will automatically generate your XML sitemap when you publish a new page or make changes to your site. Those of you using another CMS might be looking for an easy solution to create your XML sitemap. Well, there are a few free solutions, including Screaming Frog and xmlsitemaps.com. Screaming Frog is a web crawler that allows you to assess your website's on-page SEO. The company offers a tool to develop your own XML sitemap and strengthen your website's on-page SEO in the process. To use Screaming Frog's sitemap generator, you'll first download the company's SEO web crawler, which is free for crawling your first 500 URLs. Once your website is crawled, you can create an XML sitemap from it, including every web page that scores a 200 in the initial crawl. This ensures only your strongest pages are included in your new XML sitemap. Now, let's walk through how to submit your sitemap to Google. First, sign into Google Search Console. Search Console will be your dashboard for testing and submitting updated sitemaps to Google, so you can ensure Google is always aware of your latest pages published to your site. To get started, add in your domain into the blank field. This website should just be the domain name, the parent URL to which all of your other web pages belong. Then click Continue. Once your ownership is verified, click Go to Property. If your ownership isn't verified, double check that you are logged into the correct Google account. Now that you have your domain added into your Search Console account, the next step will be to add your sitemap. In the left-hand bar, under Index, click Sitemaps. To submit a new sitemap, you'll simply need to type in the URL where your sitemap lives. Adding a new sitemap requires you to add a string of text to the end of your website's domain. Think of it like a tracking tag, allowing Google to examine all of the activity that takes place inside of your website. This sitemap tag is sitemap.xml, and you'll want to add it to the end of your domain name. For example, if your domain is yourcompany.com, you'll tag it like this, yourcompany.com/sitemap.xml. Submit your sitemap, and you're all set. Depending on how much page authority you have already accumulated on Google, it might take some time to see the status of your submitted sitemap. Give it time. Google will eventually accept it. Now, let's walk through how to submit a sitemap to Bing or Yahoo. First, sign into Bing Webmaster Tools. Under the My Sites page, enter the URL for your company and click Add. In the Add a Sitemap field, enter yourdomain.com/sitemap.xml. Complete the rest of the required fields on the page and then click Save. Then you're all set. Once you define and submit your sitemap the first time, chances are that you'll want to add and tweak pages on your website, and that's completely fine. But keep in mind that if your website isn't built on a platform that automatically generates a new sitemap and then updates it on your web server when new pages are added, then every time you add a page, any page, to your website, that page will be missing from the sitemap that search engines see. Google crawls pages frequently, which means that you could get by without resubmitting your sitemap manually. Although the problem with this approach is that you're reliant on Google's time frame to crawl and index your site content. And Google might not crawl and index your pages as quickly as you'd like. To index your content the fastest way possible, you should resubmit your sitemap after publishing a new page. Having and maintaining your sitemap is crucial to being discoverable in search engines. Your sitemap will help search engines understand your content and get it served to the people that you're trying to reach.